Hi, welcome everybody. I'm Gary Larson. I've been the lead developer slash instructor as we work through this hybrid curriculum apprenticeship for building with agents. One of the big things we've been trying to tackle with our curriculum is really the AI transformation in the IT workplace and how it's radically changing the workflow. And so the goal of our curriculum is to bring in our developers to work on a project that solves a real business problem with the AI native principles first and actually build out an agentic workflow that solves a problem for CFA. So with that, I'm going to hand you over to Juan and Enrique. They'll be leading you through this. And just thank you for taking the time to join us today. Juan and Enrique, it's all yours.
My name is Juan Reyes, and I have been working with Wayfinder for about 12 weeks now, and this is what we have built. So the problem we sought to fix was, oh shoot, the problem we sought to build to fix was workforce leaders needing answers quickly for the labor market. As you know, things are pretty slow, and it's hard to find information for such information. Job posting data is hard to find and hard to use. And we just wanted a way for directors to have answers in just plain English. Um, so what does Labor Pulse do? It's pretty much a 8 engine pipeline where it runs through 8 different agents to gather evidence. It reads live posting data, it finds roles, skills, employers, and tools, and it gathers everything and it just creates answers for any questions that you may have, as well as giving citations and evidence for the answers that it does give. Now, how do we make sure that this is trustworthy? Well, we made sure that it is evidence-based first and model second. So what this means is that it looks for real data driven by a real answer, and AI is only there to help explain it. As aforementioned, there's 8 agents, and each one has their own job. And this makes it much easier to find errors between them. Um, Now, after it runs through the pipeline, it gives a typed event where it gives the data in a structured way, not just random text. And the LLM is also logged every time it is ran to make sure that auditing and debugging is much easier. And we also have data citations to make sure that every single answer counts um, and has real data with evidence. And then I'm gonna go ahead and show you um, labor polls. So I'm gonna have Enrique show you blah 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 blah. I'm gonna just skip like the first 2 questions, and then I'll do 3 and 4.
Okay.
So okay, so this is the third question, as it's running, I'm gonna read it for you. So what should a cybersecurity training program cover given current job postings? This is what it gives us. So it gives us a rating of confidence low. So it's telling us that it's not very sure. As of right now, the formatting of the answer is not what it's supposed to look like. We make sure to have the backend working as great as possible, polishing it, and the front end right now is just this. And down here, we do have evidence-based citations for everything that the AI did propose. We also have follow-up questions down here, so anything that you may want to ask it further. Right now, it's not um, completely full as we would like it to be, but that is something that we are being working on. And we also have this what is this was this useful tab to get feedback on the AI to see if it was useful or not. And yeah, so now I'm just gonna go ahead and pass it to Brian and Emilio to talk a bit more about the metrics.
Thank you. So for our metrics, as we can see, we're close to our quality goals on understanding questions and setting sources. We keep improving that with each release. The system already feels fast and dependable. some of the capabilities that carry over when we apply the same approach to other markets or programs. We validate against a full set of priority scenarios so the numbers reflect real discipline, not just anything that's cherry-picked for the demo. The one area that is still lagging is how often we can fully answer certain questions, and that comes down to gaps in the underlying data. It's not a weakness in the assistant itself. We can see our scores that are near the targets and the only structural data gaps, which would be the answerability of the labor pools. Handing it off to Brian.
Yes. So for latency, this table is the pipeline health, not model bragging. Median wall clock per question is about 2.5 seconds. Half of all questions finish that fast. The 95th percentile is 24 seconds. Worst case in this round, 31. So most answers feel instant. The long tail is usually heavier queries or synthesis, not a stuck bus. Under the hood, the LLM slice is modest, about 1.5 seconds at the median, 5.5 at P95. That tells us that the database and routing path are not the bottleneck. We're not burning minutes waiting on the database. The full 90 questions evolve while clock at about 8 minutes total. That's why the latency on the scorecard is basically one. We are now here near a 45 seconds product per question on this hardware and dataset. Um, I don't know if you can change the slide. Thank you. So this is how we got here. 4 runs, 2 tweaks of iteration. Or version 1 baseline, the system had decent intent accuracy at 0.81, but the score was lenient. Evidence citation looked high at 0.69 because the grading was generous. We tightened the scoring on version 2, moved to a strict binary grader and a geometric composite. Evidence citation dropped to 0.34. That's not because the system got worse, it's because we raised our own bar. And traceability also dropped to 0.6. The team fixed the data layer at version 3. We populated the tables, fixed routing bugs, backfill classifications, evidence cleaned back to 0.57, and answerability jumped to 0.46. Today, our definite ROM, fresh database, all migrations, all aggregate tables populated, skill velocity, demand weekly, role snapshots, disruption fingerprints, everything is fresh from the database. And we do have an intent accuracy stable at 0.81, evidence at 0.54, confidence at 0.96, and answerability at 0.40. As Emilio mentioned before, that's a structural ceiling given our data volume of 4,000 postings. The improvements came from fixing data and infrastructure, not prompt hacking. The prompts were good from the start. They just needed real data to work with, and the remaining gaps are data coverage issues that resolve naturally as we ingest more postings.
And Juan and Enrique, when we go to this slide, if you could just kind of transition so it's not so cold. Like you could just you run a show. You could just say, okay, now our team will share some Q&A. You feel free to ask your own questions, but these are ones we have um, that we thought were relevant to share, and then they could take over.
Okay, so I'll say something like, all right, so now I'll pass it to Nestor and Fatima to share some questions that you may have.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Fabian and Angel actually would probably be best because I think they're leading with the questions, so they'll just pass it to them, and then it'll be the
Oh, Fabian and
four
Angel. Okay.
group. Yeah.
Okay, so right after Brandon and Emilio, I'll go ahead and pass it to Fabian and Angel to answer any questions they may have. Okay. Uh,
Thank you, Juan. Hello, everyone. My name is Fabian. And the first question that I'm going to be answering is more of a transferable skills type of question. Like, what did I learn building this? And what is it that I take to my next agentic system, right? So when I first heard that we will be using the top of the line AI agents to build the system of interest, I got excited. However, what shifted for me wasn't prompt harder. It was realizing that capabilities weren't the same as a product. Once AI stops being a chat window and becomes part of how the system behaves, you inherit real architecture, where the model is allowed to act, what it must never decide without evidence, and guardrails that keep outputs inside the job we actually built, not whatever the model finds plausible this week. So I'd take that mindset everywhere. Treat the model as a constrained partner inside the explicit scope and design for drift. Because without rules at the boundary or foundation of every system that we're building, capability becomes divergence. And so, what travels with me from there is that scope isn't something you'd hope the model remembers. It's something you enforce in code, contracts, and review loops. That's the difference between a demo and a prototype that works just for a demo and something you'd run in operations. Now, here's a list of capability questions, and I'll go ahead and answer the first one and the fifth one before I transfer it over to Angel. And so the first question is, how does it handle a new job source? And so we don't have to fork the pipeline for every website or API that we swap out. Each source plugs in behind a shared ingestion contract. We keep the same event shape, same staging idea, and use adapters for the weird field names and formats. Adding a source is mostly plugging in a new adapter plus adding different configurations to match with that adapter. This prevents having to rewrite the agents downstream. That way, we keep the blast radius small and tests remain predictable. So, the pattern that's portable is typed contracts at the boundary, and any team building agents will hit a different number of sources. So, if you don't isolate them behind a contract, you'll pay for it in bugs and rewrites. And that's why we designed the job intelligence engine to avoid those costs. And finally, can I use it for my region? Yes, architecturally. The code path isn't borderplex only in a hard coded way. That's what I, and what I mean by that is new regions are primarily a data and configuration problem. Sorry, you probably hear my daughter in the background trying to come in, but
Barely. Yeah, it's fine.
all right. Um, Okay, yeah. So it's primarily a data and configuration problem. What you ingest, how you label geography, and what you consider in scope. So essentially, you're not starting from zero on the agent design. You're just swapping the data and tuning what region means in queries and filters. So the lesson I teach another team is to design regions as a first class scope in the architecture, not as a one off branch in the app. And that's what makes the system reusable without having to maintain separate forks or projects. And from there, I'll pass it on to Angel.
Uh, well, thanks again. So for me, what I would teach the team, another team, number
And here,
one,
hold on, I'm gonna interrupt you real quick. Your sound quality is really bad. I don't know if you could do something to fix it.
give me a second.
Yep.
While Angel's fixing his sound quality, Gary, what did you think of that semi draft or something?
Is it better now?
Yeah, much better. Good, Fabian. Yeah, it's good. Yep.
Okay.
I'll give feedback at the end too once we close. Yep.
Okay. Um, so for me, I would say I would teach another team how to do evaluation discipline, specifically preventing leakage and validating everything you do. I know that we had an issue where we had a mock LLM that was reading the evaluation answer key, and this made answers, but then we found out that when we ran evals, um, the jump, the scores jumped from like 0 to perfect, but it wasn't real. It was a leakage. So with that, I would say like test things before you just trust the code. Our fix was that we completely removed that fake path and we replaced it with safe mock placeholder. So we would use a real LM and then a real database. And when we did that, we saw like real improvements. I'd say like never trust the score jump without actually testing in a real system, and then just log everything so that we can audit it later. Um, and for my capability question on what is the cost to run the system, uh, so our like system basically has two parts to it. We have extraction when it comes to the jobs, and then the questions and giving an answer. On the instruction side, which is most of the costs, we did an audit around week 5 of the internship, and it costs roughly about 1 cent per job. And when we did that, that was about 500K tokens total for 260 jobs. Um, and for the Q&A, it's much cheaper. Most of the queries cost a fraction of the cent. Um, they're really small, quick answers, but sometimes with heavier answers, they can cost up to 3 cents per question. Um, and the only issue I think is that we haven't done anything outside of seeing the LLM costs. We have yet to do a full projection, a full cost projection of what it is to run a production model. Um, but I think that's what's coming next. So we don't just measure LLM usage, but everything in the code. Um, yeah, and with that, I can pass it off to Nestor.
Nestor's not here, so the next one I would believe would be uh, Fatima, right? You do your question because Nestor's not here. He has to come back and watch this video and prep for his.
Yeah. Okay. So my name is Fatima, and if I were to start an agentic project elsewhere tomorrow, what would I change? So I would lock the evil harness before iterating prompts, and this is because we caught a leakage late, and that's avoidable. I would also start with the operational problem statement on the wall, not the architecture diagram, since the architecture should follow the problem and not the other way around. And then I did mention the evil harness, because if the evil harness is broken, we would be iterating against something that's inaccurate. So we had prompts that looked like they were improving. We had some scores going up, but the harness was reading the answer key. So we were optimizing against noise, and we can't really trust any prompt decisions until we know the measurement is accurate. And then before I hand it out to Garrett, I just wanted to let you guys know what is next. So how would phase 2 look like? So the pattern we would carry forward would be ship discipline first, automation second, and we did that here and it's portable. So right now the system answers questions about the borderplex labor market, so hiring trends, skill demands, regional breakdowns. So phase 2 takes that further. So we have a dedicated gap analysis layer that compares what employers are demanding against what our program graduates are producing, and it generates board-ready reports automatically. So it also brings in live data such as labor statistics, occupational crosswalk. So answers are grounded in more than just local postings. And the foundation is already in the code base. It's not starting from scratch. But I'll go ahead and hand it up to Gary so he can walk you through the full vision of it.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, thanks, Fatima.
Of course.
Of course, I want to share my screen, but I want to share. I'm sharing the wrong screen. Smooth. Let me do this correctly. Okay, so basically in the project that they just built, I wanted to share 8 basic patterns that were applied here, and they're all on the slide. But I'll share the slides with you after the meeting. But basically, I want to talk about three, and they're the three highlighted in green. Um, that are really all these are transferable to other agentic systems or other projects for other people. But the confidence calibration really is gauges trustworthiness of the system and shows us um, really if we could trust the answer or not. So you can see when the questions were shared, the questions that had more data were more rich and the confidence was higher. Uh, but when the data wasn't there, the system didn't hallucinate. The structure we followed and traveled through with our existing patterns that are all listed out here essentially made it so the data comes, it's data first, model second. And that's really important for just having confidence in the answers that are coming back. But also the other two that are noteworthy are the evidence citation and the code first audits. So really, what we did for the code first audits is we basically when we're doing review, we never take anything at face value from like the notes or what people say. We always run it through the system and just iterate and really just kind of take it may sound wrong, but we just take like a don't trust notes and documentation. Always run the code first, so that way we can really isolate what's going on and fix problems before they come up. Like Fatima mentioned, an issue with leakage, and it was mentioned elsewhere. It was a big learning experience for everyone, I believe, but really um, taking this code first approach help us catch that rather than let it just continue on. So yeah, if there's any other questions from our guests, I'm more willing to ask them, or the team's open to answer any questions. But thank you for this time. All right, we did good. So and mine will be a little more polished. Like I said, I didn't have it like 100%, but yeah, everyone did really good. A couple things. I just wanted before I forget. Um, Juan and Enrique. Enrique will watch this later, but just make sure you have those call outs filled out in the slides. That they're not demo ones left. You probably know that, but just to remind you.
Yeah.
Um, and Brian, when you're queuing, you could just say next slide, please. Brian, other than that, everything, you guys were really good so far. And it,
Okay.
yeah, and then when you're reading the numbers, just read them as percentages. It'll flow a lot better. And they basically are 0 to 1, so you can read them as percentages. So 75%, 90% confidence. I think that's just to help it flow a little better. Nothing serious. You could do it the other way, but I think percentage will just probably flow a lot better, and it'll be more relatable to what the numbers are.
I was thinking of that. Do you want me to change the current ones to percentage, or do I leave them like that?
I'd leave them like that and just read them as percentages. Yeah, I'd leave them.
Um,
Okay.
I was wondering because I left out the transfer of skills. Because should I just say it, Brian? Do you think I should just say it before your turn, or just wait till you're finished and say it for our QA transferable skills?
Yeah, since we should say that at the end. So I'm actually texting you right now through Discord so we can organize better on that.
Okay, yeah.
And then one thing I want to do too is like on the slides. I'll probably do it right now, but I just want to get confirmation from you guys first before I do it because it's a destructive thing to the slides. I actually want to remove the lead and owner on the Q&A because that's more for not for presentation but more for rehearsal and practice. So the lead and owner, you guys know who owns what already, right? Yeah, I could delete those and those aren't helpful to you at all. The lead and owner on slide 15. That's for pairs A and B. If I delete those, it
That's
doesn't.
fine with me.
Okay, you guys know which questions you own, right?
Yeah.
I think it makes the slide look a lot less, but yeah, I think that's better because this I think it'll just flow a little better. I'm just gonna extend the slides out a little bit and just drop these like so. There we go. And then yeah, just I think it just looks better that way. Yeah, and Fabian, yours, yeah, it sounded good. You know, a little smoother. Was a little bit like I could definitely tell you're reading it, but that's fine. Even if you are reading it, a lot of people do that for demos. But I would just say that was my only really nit about things. Other than that, it sounded really good. Um, yeah, good job, everyone. I think this is a well polished demo. I think they'll be happy with it tomorrow. So, like, we'll meet at 1 o'clock tomorrow. Kind of get ready. Maybe we could just do a quick like review of the slides together. If anything's changed, just talk so there's no surprises. And remember the cue for the next slide is just you can just be really confident and say next slide please, or don't feel like it's lost. Just confidently guide if you need another slide, so that way Juan knows where to go. Um, but yeah, any questions for me or any feedback that you guys want to give the team or myself before demo day tomorrow?
For me, I was just gonna say that, like, just to let me know when you guys want me to change the slide for you. So that was it.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
So after since I think I'm finishing, after I finish presenting, I hand it off to should I just say like next up we'll do the or Q&A or
Yeah, eh, just so you'll hand it off to Fabian, I think, because Fabian's the first one
okay,
to answer questions, correct? Then Angel
okay.
goes next, and then Nestor, then Fatima. So you could just hand it off to next in line. Yep. And I guess that will be your Q1 when he hands it off to go to the Q&A slides. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, because we're gonna reorganize, Gary. So I'm gonna start with the current results scorecard. Then I believe Emilio is gonna talk about the improvements over the baseline. Then I'll finish talking with the latency results, and then Emilio will finish talking with the transferable skills.
Okay, yeah, just get your slides ordered how you need them, and just basically, just Q1 if he needs to change the slide, just next slide, please, and then just who you're handing off to. That's great. I know you and Emilio talk a lot, and Discord is really active, so I know you guys will get it. So I'm not worried about that at all. Yeah, so if you guys want to change things up and do that, that's fine. Um, cool. So yeah, and then just those call outs, Juan and Enrique and slide 7 through 11. I'm mostly saying this for Enrique when he comes back and watches the rehearsal. Make sure you get those call outs in there. And when I share this recording, I'll also share the link to the demo deck so that way it's there for Enrique.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, thanks everyone. I'm going to stop the recording now.